I wouldn't really call this an AI social mind virus experiment, but it is something I wanted to experiment with AI on. And tonight I'm asking it the very important question: am I autistic? I've considered myself autistic. I've never really gotten a formal diagnosis. I'm about 44 years old, so I don't think they tested for it when I was a kid. And I think there's a lot of things that autism has that or things I've read about autism and people that I've seen that have been diagnosed as autistic, and I think I've gotten a lot of similar type of issues. So, have a lot of problems with processing emotion. I tend to block it out basically. So, and I also have a tendency to hyper focus on things where I'll study something really in depth for 6 months to a year and become an expert at it for no reason at all other than just to fulfill my own self knowledge. Doesn't matter what the subject may be. It's one of the reasons I like Joe Rogan is he always has on a wide variety of experts on just various fields, and so I'll just listen to something completely random and just learn about it and uh, things like that. That I think end up leading me to that. I did take a little online testing, but I don't think that's conclusive. I also spoke with somebody that's autistic, and they kind of part of the idea for me to go ahead and see about possibly getting professional diagnosis. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little while before I can do that, I think, but um, just because I live in the middle of nowhere and money is a little bit tight, so I may end up doing some sort of telehealth too, and I may actually see about that person's doctor, maybe getting a referral type thing, and seeing if I can do it over the phone or something like that, or even just like online, like I'm doing right now. I'd prefer to actually record it just to find out for myself and for somebody that may be like me. Hopefully, kind of get them to maybe open up a little bit more. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the results here, and it says these different areas here. You can see that there's a few things that I've marked really high in here, and it says your autism spectrum symptoms are very high. It says depression. People with autism are 4 times more likely to experience depression than those who are neurotypical. One of the strongest predictors of depression is loneliness, since individuals high in the autism spectrum are more at risk of isolating themselves. They may have more depression triggers. I've lived alone pretty much my entire life. There's different reasons for that, emotionally and etc. that I can get into, but um, I have had some issues with depression in the past. I'm generally a pretty happy person, but I do bottle up my emotions, and I felt that that was a bad thing to do. I feel it's a lot better to get those emotions out of the way when I'm experiencing them as opposed to bottling them up. So, fixations. Many people with autism spectrum disorders have difficulties in dealing with change. As consequences, they often have routines that they feel they need to follow. Adhering to these rituals and routines tends to make them feel more comfortable of their environment. They also usually have special interests that they feel they must tend to, which they experience as fundamental to their well-being. I kind of already went into that a little bit. Um, I wouldn't say I have difficulties dealing with change, but I do try to stick to a certain schedule in life. I find that if I don't have order in my life, then uh, I tend to let things get too chaotic. My room's kind of a mess. I'm trying to work on Jordan Peterson, cleaning up your room stuff. But the easiest way for me to do that is to kind of just set aside specific times and things like that to actually get it done, as opposed to just doing it in the moment. So, abnormal and flat speech. Individuals with autism generally speak differently from most people. They may talk in flat or exaggerated ways or speak in clipped bursts. This relates to the general difficulties people with autism spectrum disorders experience in understanding metaphors, social cues, and the subtext of certain words. I do have some ways of dealing with that, and I've learned to speak better over time, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this thing here is learning how to talk to strangers and things like that, even though I'm still not got a following. Hopefully one day I will. Noise sensitivity. One common symptom experienced by people with autism spectrum disorders is intense sensitivity to sound. Autism spectrum individuals may be easily overwhelmed by noises as well as other environmental stimuli such as abnormal temperatures or lights. Um, when it's very busy, a lot of people around and stuff, I have a tendency to shut myself off. I don't go to parties and stuff because of that. I end up just getting overwhelmed by it, so I just prefer to have a controlled environment where it's just me and a couple people that I can talk with, and When there's two or three people talking, I have a tendency to not ever interject or anything like that because I feel it's wrong, and then also I have problems processing it. So, social difficulty. Many individuals on the autism spectrum feel challenged when it comes to making or engaging friends and may be overwhelmed by uncertain social situations. This disposition is often related to their difficulties with reading nonverbal communication, or conversely to their own adherence to fixed routines or tendency towards flat speech. So I kind of already covered some of that. And like I said, I don't go to those social situations. One of the things I kept asking about is eye contact. I tend to avoid eye contact. It's pretty common in some cultures. Like I know the Japanese don't like to do eye contact too, so it's not really a defining theme for me. But I just have problems looking at somebody in the eyes and trying to judge their emotions and things like that. I don't like having to do that, but it's something that's necessary for humans to do. So, anxiety. Individuals with autism often develop irrational fears or phobias, social anxiety, and separation anxiety. They may struggle with intense levels of stress due to their sensory sensitivities and or difficulties adapting to changes in their routines. Individuals high in social anxiety may also develop a fear of negative reactions from their peers. Most everybody that knows me, I'm kind of a chameleon. I'm able to blend into their kind of attitude and sense of humor and things like that. And so usually I do have quite a few friends in town, so it gets into one of those things where even though I don't socialize, nearly everybody that I come across generally considers me a very friendly person, very cool person, but I just don't really talk to too many people outside of my work. Abnormal posture. Individuals on the autism spectrum often struggle with reduced perception of their bodily movements. As a result, they may have difficulties with their motor coordination or postural orientation. These tendencies may further exacerbate their social isolation. I've always had problems with handwriting. I've never been good with handwriting. Um, Instead, I learned to type instead. So I used to test my typing on occasion. I used to be able to type 100 words a minute. I'm not sure if I'm still around that mark or not, but I used to be considered very, very good. Poor eye contact. One of the hallmarks of autism is the tendency to avoid eye contact. Individuals on the autism spectrum often find that maintaining eye contact causes them stress. Due to the overwhelming sensory input many experience, many individuals with autism would rather look at something else, such as static objects or another person's shoes. Again, I am guilty of doing that a lot myself, so I'm also going to check and make sure that I'm live here real quick. Okay, looks like everything's good. I'm going to check the audio. Hello? Okay, looks like everything's good. All right, good there. Tics and fidgets. Individuals with autism may experience motoric and somatic tics, such as head movements, excessive blinking, or twitching. They may also struggle with vocal tics, such as repeating words or phrases. Finally, some may find it challenging to keep still, and they constantly feel the urge to fidget. Um, One of the problems I have with speaking is my mind would tend to go a little bit quicker than my mouth would move. Luckily, with doing this sort of program, I've become a lot more stable in that regard. Um, and I feel like I'm actually improving on a lot of that. I do still have a tendency to fidget with things, like I'll play with this cap that I've got in my hand, or I'll play with pens, things like that. So I also have restless leg syndrome that hasn't been diagnosed, but a lot of people have commented on it, how I'll just constantly be tapping my leg nonstop. Aggression. Some individuals with autism may be prone to aggression in the form of hitting objects or things, destroying property, and or throwing temper tantrums. This is especially likely to occur for those individuals with autism who cannot speak well. This is another way of communicating their needs. I don't feel I get too aggressive, but I do sometimes, when machines and things don't work the way that I like, I do have a tendency to get a little bit aggressive with them. I've never been violent towards other people in my life, and I don't ever see myself ever getting violent towards another person in my life. If violence is enacted upon me, I may respond, but for the most part, if there's somebody around, I will tend to contain my emotions. But if there's nobody around and I'm having problems with the computer, I might get angry at it and scream some profanities or something at it. And I have been known to slap computer cases and things like that on occasion before, in a temper tantrum. But I don't see that as a good outlet of doing things, but sometimes it feels good to me. So, and everything that I've broken, I've well within my power to be able to fix. So I've got soldering experience. I've been able to repair PCB boards, so I'm pretty adept at repairing things in the event that I do accidentally break them with a temper tantrum, but I tend to not do that. So that's the autism spectrum testing that I took, and like I said, there's a few areas here where it's marked pretty high, and it says I'm high there. So let's go ahead and see what AI thinks. Again, I am actually going to probably see a professional about this. First up, I'm going to do Aloria, which I believe is designed for doing mental health type things. So let's see what it responds with. My prompt I'm going to use, I'm going to try this on Aloria. I'm most hopeful for it. And then there's ChatGPT and Grok. Those are the ones I feel will probably provide me the best solution. But then again, this may be really short and may just say, we can't do that, seek a professional help or something. But I'm hopeful at least one of them will respond. So, although I think I might be autistic, I plan on seeking professional opinion on that. But in the meantime, I'd like to get an AI input. Do you think you can help me tell if I might be autistic? Laura responds, that's great that you're taking a step to seek a professional opinion. It shows self-awareness and initiative, which is commendable. While I can't provide a diagnosis, I can help explore some traits commonly associated with autism that might resonate with you. Autism often involves differences in communication, social interaction, and sensory processing. For instance, do you find it challenging to interpret social cues or maintaining conversations? Are routines or specific interests particularly important to you? Some people on the spectrum also have intense focus on certain hobbies or topics, like your deep passion for gaming and programming, while potentially struggling in other areas of your life. Your dedication to self-improvement and structured schedules could align with some autistic traits, but they're not definitive indicators either. Everyone's experience is unique, and autism encompasses a wide spectrum. If anything resonates with you from this conversation, it could be worth reflecting on further as you prepare for your professional evaluation. I'd love to hear more about how this connects with what you're feeling currently, or if there are other aspects of yourself that makes you think that way. Let me know if I can best support you and understand yourself better. So let's see here. It's asking, do you find it challenging to interpret social cues or maintain conversations? I believe I gotten adept at reading people's emotions through years of experience, being forced into situations having to deal with customer service issues. But if left on my own, I would not have developed that experience. I used to have a lot of problems starting a conversation, but I'm able to continue along a line of thought to keep the conversation going. I do find routines to be very important to me. And I do focus on a lot of various devote long chunks of time to studying anything that interests me. I currently have a cat that's trying to eat me. Sounds like you've cultivated a lot of skills and self-awareness through your experiences, and which is something to be really proud of. Your ability to read emotions and engage in conversations, even if initially felt challenging, highlights how adaptable and resourceful you are. That's such a valuable skill set. especially when paired with the dedication you've described towards routines and diving deeply into topics that interest you. Traits you're sharing, like finding comfort in routines and immersing yourself in focused study for long periods or developing emotional reading skills through structured exposure, can sometimes align with characteristics associated with autism, but they can also simply reflect your individual personality and growth over time. It feels like you've taken these potential changes as opportunities to build strength and understanding within yourself. This resonates with you, with why you're exploring the possibility of being autistic. It might be worth reflecting on how these patterns have shaped your life so far, whether or not a professional evaluation aligns with autism specifically. The insight you've gained about yourself seems invaluable for continuing both your personal growth and your exciting journey ahead. Let me know if there's anything specific you'd like to delve deeper into. I'm here all for it. So I was hoping to get a little bit more in depth on that. But I wasn't sure. I know that technically these things probably can't give medical advice, so that's why I also included the blurb about me seeking professional opinion, and I think that's also necessary regardless. So let's see if Grok or ChatGPT can throw out a little bit something extra at me. So ChatGPT responds, "Hey, thanks for trusting me with something so personal. I can definitely help you think through it a bit while you're waiting to talk to a professional. I'm not a doctor or therapist, so I can't give a diagnosis, but I can walk you through some questions or traits often associated with autism, particularly autism spectrum disorder or ASD. Help you reflect on whether they apply to you." A lot of people find that organizing their thoughts like this helpful before meeting a professional. To get started, would you be comfortable sharing? 1, what makes you suspect you might be autistic? 2, are there specific experiences or traits or challenges you notice in yourself, either socially, emotionally, or in how you interact with the world? 3, have you ever taken online screening tools like the AQ test, and if so, what did they tell you? I would say most people tend to think, process emotions like a machine. And seeks hyper focus on a wide topic or two until become expert and then move on to another topic. I think I have some social tics like repeating myself. I do that a lot online. Somebody looks at my Discord history, they might say, "Well, why do you say the same thing twice?" And sometimes it's just the way my mind processes things. It'll kind of loop back over itself, and I don't even realize that I said it twice until after I hit enter. And I feel strict schedule helps me get things done properly. Thanks for opening up. What you described are definitely traits that can be associated with autism, though they can also overlap with other neurotypes or just personality differences. Still, it's worth taking a closer look. Let's break down what you said a little. 1, process emotions like a machine. This might mean you struggle to interpret or express emotions in a way that others expect. You might feel emotions internally, but not show them externally. And people might say you seem cold or too logical, even if you don't feel that way inside. This is common in autism, especially in the way autistic folks express or interpret social media or social emotional cues differently. Doesn't mean you're unfeeling. It often means you just experience or communicate emotions in your own way. 2, hyperfocus until expert level, then move on. This is very common in autism. It's often called special interest. Intensity and depth of focus can be impressive. It can also feel like an all or nothing cycle, either obsessed or uninterested. Sometimes seen in ADHD too, but in autism it often comes with a deep craving for structure, accuracy, and knowledge. 3, social tics like repeating yourself. That could be echolila. I never heard that before. repeating words or phrases, sometimes as a stim or a way to process speech. Or it could just be to reemphasize or clarify, which can feel repetitive to others. It may also be connected to social anxiety or trouble tracking whether you've already said something. Repeating yourself is something many autistic people do, either consciously or unconsciously, especially in conversation where pacing and turn taking can feel hard to manage. Needing a strict schedule, routine, and predictability, a big deal for a lot of autistic people. Sudden changes can cause stress, disorientation, or even shutdowns. Routines often bring a sense of control and calm. Executive function, planning, organizing, and initiating tasks often works better with a strong structure. All of that together does form a picture that very much worth exploring with a professional. Nothing you said screams definitely autistic, but it's a strong enough cluster of traits that a lot of autistic people would relate to. If you're up for it, I can ask a few more reflective questions to explore how you experience social life, sensory input, and emotional regulation, or I can walk you through a quick informal self-check quiz, not diagnostic, just for insight. Ask me some more reflective questions. Absolutely, I'll ask a handful of questions across a few key areas often associated with autism. You don't need to overanalyze your answers. Just go with your gut, and we'll reflect on patterns afterward. Social interaction. Do you find small talk awkward, boring, or confusing? Absolutely. I tend to just kind of do my own thing in my mind and half-ass listen to it. I always hate when somebody, follows up with a, you know what I mean, or something because of that. Because a lot of times I just feel that people's innate need, especially on like Facebook and stuff. So it's one of the reasons I never was active on Facebook, is people were always posting pictures of the food and things like that, and I was just like, this seemed like a waste of purpose to me, and I feel that since I've neglected social media for so long, though, that it could have been a boon to me in a lot of ways. So now I'm trying to actually focus on doing it more. I don't post pictures of my food and stuff, but I do try to post more and stuff on it. Do you often feel like you're performing in social situations instead of just being yourself? Yes. Have you ever been told you're too blunt, too honest, or socially off without meaning to be? Absolutely. One of the things that I have problems with is since I manage a tow company, a lot of times I have to deal with fatality accidents, and I sometimes end up just saying the wrong things and acting the wrong way. I try to be empathetic and stuff because people, have lost family members and stuff, but I still have to perform a function for my business, and it's pretty hard for me. So I end up, like I said, I may end up saying something off kilter or something because of that. And also, I feel that that's a lot of the stuff that I've seen had to deal with that company is causing some emotional scarring in my life as well. So, sensory sensitivities. Do certain sounds, lights, fabrics, or textures bother you way more than they seem to bother others? E.g., tags in clothes, bright lights, loud places, chewing noises. I already spoke about loud places. I never understood the ASMR thing. Don't like that either. But if a place is really noisy, I have problems with that. When it comes to fabrics, I used to wear cotton all the time, but then when I got into dry fit clothing, I actually much prefer that. And so all my clothing I wear now is a dry fit style polyester fabric. You get in the weeds about is wearing polyester bad for you or etc. I don't know. I just like to feel a lot better, so everything I have is now kind of like that. One of the things that I have a lot of problems with is writing with a lead pencil. If it's a mechanical pencil, it's not too bad, but on like a number 2 pencil, if it's not extremely sharp, it just causes shivers throughout my body. I can't explain it. It's the same thing that when people say people are scratching their nails on chalkboards. I would say it's absolutely similar to that. When I'm writing with a pencil, I just can't stand it at all, so I always use pens. I did use a mechanical pencil for a while, and like I said, it didn't seem to be as bad with that, but An old school #2 pencil. I can't do that at all. Do you get overwhelmed in busy or chaotic environments like crowded stores, parties, or noisy streets? Absolutely. I already covered that. Cognitive patterns and routines. Do you feel distressed or thrown off when your routine suddenly changes, even if it's something small like a meeting being moved or a different route home? Um, I find it very important I set routines. I've gotten used to having to adjust my routine if need be, but I don't like to permanently adjust my routine if it's just a one-off thing where I may be 5-10 minutes late or whatever. It's not that big of a deal to me. I don't really view the time aspect as important to it as opposed to the actual routine and me doing the things that I need to get done for the day. Do you find yourself doing the same thing in the same way a lot, like arranging things a certain way or eating the same food over and over? Absolutely. In fact, I have a major problem where I'll eat only 1 or 2 types of food for like 6, 7, 8 months, and then all of a sudden I will just get burnt out on it, and then just switch up to something else for like 2 or 3 years, and then I end up with like a freezer full of junk food because it goes bad after a while, uh, and I'll pitch that food, and then a few months later I'll end up back into to liking that food again, and then I'll end up having to buy more food of that. So that's the only time that I'm usually wasteful when it comes to food and things like that is the fact that I just tend to eat the same thing over and over until for whatever reason I decide to switch it up and move on to something else. Communication and emotions. Do you struggle to read facial expressions, tones of voice, or body language, like not knowing if someone is joking, annoyed, or being sarcastic? I would say sometimes I've gotten a lot better at talking with people through the years because of the positions that I've been put in that required it. So, but when it comes to some of that stuff, I still have a lot of issues with that. But that's more so being trained as opposed to just a natural type thing. You sometimes have very intense emotional emotional reactions, but not always understand why or struggles to express them clearly. I would say yes on that. Stimming and self-regulation. Do you do things like tapping your fingers, bouncing your leg, pacing, or repeating words to help yourself focus or calm down? Absolutely. You don't have to answer them all at once, and there's no right pattern, but the more honest you are with yourself, the better picture we can paint together. I want to start with a few that stand out to you. I don't know if I need to bother continuing this anymore as far as I kind of answered these questions on stream. I think I'm going to switch over to Grok because I don't want to go on too long on this. I'd like to get back to playing some games or something tonight, but this is something I wanted to do. Let's see what Grok has to say. I'll answer these questions aloud. Not to continue further. I will speak to the specialist about this. Thank you for your time. I might go back to Aloria, but just because I want to try and probe it more, since it's more supposed to be a I think they're supposed to design it for more like mental health type stuff. So, let's see. Grok says, I'm not a doctor or psychologist, so I can't diagnose you, but I can provide some general information about autism that's help you reflect on what you're experiencing. Autism spectrum disorder is a complex condition and it shows up differently in everyone. If you'd like, I can share some common traits and patterns associated with autism, and you can see if they resonate with you. What specific things about yourself are making you wonder about this? Sharing that could help me give you more tailored input. Speaking with someone that has autism, and some folks and even myself have preference that I might be autistic. I don't think this is going to go too much anywhere. Let's see. I believe my hyper focus on the subject matter that I find interesting at the time, social cues, and my distaste for large gatherings, and tendency to want to live alone are major factors. See what it responds with. That's a really interesting observation. I can see why they might make you wonder about autism. Let's break them down a bit based on what's commonly associated with ASD. Again, not to diagnose, just to give you some context, touch you on while you wait for that professional opinion. Hyperfocus on subjects you find interesting is something that often comes up with autism. It's called intense interest or special interest in literature. People might dive deep into something or researching, collecting, or talking about nonstop. Sometimes to the point where it overshadowers other things. Does this sound like your experience? Like, do you find it hard to pull away once you're locked in, or is it more a passion, hobby that you set aside? Social cues can be another big one. So, some autistic folks describe it like everyone else got a manual they missed. Things like reading tone, body language, or knowing when to jump into a conversation can feel like a puzzle. You mentioned that. Do you find social situations confusing, overwhelming, or just harder to navigate than you'd expect? Distaste for large gatherings and preferring to live alone could tie into what's sometimes called social overload, or it could just be a preference for your own space. For some on the spectrum, crowds or noisy environments can feel like sensory chaos, too much input to process. Is that ring true for you, or is it more about wanting peace and quiet? If you're up for it, telling me a bit more, like how these traits show up day to day, could help me give you a clearer picture to mull over. Either way, it's smart you're seeking a pro opinion. The tools to dig deeper. What do you think? I find social situations confusing. I do not know how to process different noises and attitudes at once. And it talks about the social sensory overload. Not going to bother reading this response. I'm just going to read it to myself real quick here. And if you want to read it, because I'm thinking about wrapping this up here pretty quickly. Yeah, I pretty much already answered this, so I think we'll just call it good at that. I'm going to see if I can maybe throw some more things at Loria here. I think I'm just going to wrap that up here because I set an alarm clock off because I had to take a nap earlier and I didn't want to sleep too long. Otherwise, I'd be up all night. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this short now, and we'll see if I can throw some more things at Aloria here in the future. Thanks.